You know what you want. You know what you need. There's something in your life that you want to change. You want to improve. Maybe you want to lose some weight. Maybe you want to get healthy. Maybe you want to increase your happiness, improve your mental health, work on a relationship. Whatever it is in your life that you want, I want you to stop holding yourself back. What are those excuses? What are those reasons you haven't started yet? Maybe you don't have time. Maybe you don't know how. Maybe you don't have the energy or the motivation or the proper tools. All of those are internally keeping you from success, internally keeping you from progress, from succeeding, from improving your life. Today, I want to talk about starting now. I want to help you to learn how to overcome all of those fears and anxieties and all of those crazy things that keep you from doing what you want. If we were all doing what we wanted and we were all living our dreams, the world would absolutely be an incredible place. So let's do it. Let's start this movement. Let's start today to overcome any fear that you have, to put your brilliant ideas into the world and to help you to find happiness right where you are. You don't have to wait for 6 months down the road. You don't have to wait for something to happen. You can start right now to create your dreams, to create your happiness in the life you have right here. Nothing has to change for you to begin. That's the beauty of this whole thing. Whatever you want, that dream, that vision that you can see, you can have it right now. Today, we are going to talk about START. START, the 5-step process to get you to overcome fear, doubt, and confusion and get you moving today. Whatever your goals are, whatever your ambitions are, how do we start now? That's today's discussion. Welcome to Habits, Health, and Happiness. I'm your host, Susie B. I'm a personal trainer, health educator, and habits coach. I help people to overcome overwhelm and make progress simpler so that you can start and continue to succeed on autopilot by harnessing your superpowers, your conscious and subconscious mind. So welcome to the show. Today, like I said, we are talking about the 5 simple step process to get you going. Whatever your dreams are, they need to happen. If you are having those thoughts, if you want those things, there's a reason for that. And that reason is beautiful and should be listened to and should be followed. Follow that dream, follow that intuition within you that tells you you want this thing to happen. So let's make it happen. The very first step to starting is to start small. A lot of us have this disconnect between what we want and where we are. We can see the vision. You know that you want the $1 million business. You know you want the perfect marriage. You know you want the happy kids. You know you want the perfect body. Whatever it is that you want in your life, you can see what it looks like. And you can also see where you are. And sometimes that discrepancy, that gap between those two places is what holds us back. And when we understand that that gap can absolutely be overcome by the size of our progress, it's absolutely incredible what we can do. So I want you to start today by taking your big, beautiful dreams and making it small. I'm not saying think small. I'm not saying that your big, beautiful dreams shouldn't be big. Every good, incredible thing that has ever happened in this world started with an idea. No idea, no dream, no ambition is too big. Dream big, go big or go home. Absolutely have those beautiful, giant dreams. But don't let yourself wait for those things to happen. Start now. And by starting now, you are able to connect yourself to that dream. So instead of it feeling like a dream, instead of it feeling like something that may or may not happen at some point in the future, you create it into reality by starting small. So ask yourself, what is that dream? What is that one thing that you really, really want? Maybe there are many. I want you to focus in on one right now. If you've ever watched this show, you know my 1, 2, 3 system. One focus first. What is that one dream that you want? Think about that for just a moment. And then what is one tiny thing you can do today that will bring you closer to that goal? Let's say you want to run a marathon. That feels really, really big. That's a 26-mile race. You're not going to start today by running 26 miles. If you do, you're probably going to get injured, or you're already in shape and you've already run a marathon. If this is your first race this way, this type of experience is your first time, if it's something new, usually we have some apprehension about that and some confusion. We're not sure how to start or where to start. So we don't start. Don't let that be you. I want you to take that first step. I want you to start now by starting small. So you want to run 26 miles. Awesome. That's a beautiful goal. That's a big, awesome, amazing ambition. How do we make it small? Today, we're not going to run 26 miles. Maybe we're going to run 26 feet. Maybe we're going to walk half a mile. Maybe we're going to walk to the mailbox and back. This is where you have to decide where you are. Only you can decide what this first step needs to be because you understand where you are in the process. If I were to start to train for a marathon today, I already consistently run a couple of miles pretty frequently. So I probably could start with 4 to 5 miles on day one and be good. If you are not a runner, if you are not trained right now, today, don't compare your journey to anybody else's. Don't be like, well, I can't run 5 miles today, so I guess I shouldn't start. No, that has no power for you. All that is going to do, that comparison mindset is going to hold you back and keep you stuck. Forget what everyone else is doing. What are you doing? Are you running 1 mile today? If you're not, then let's back it up. Have you run lately? No. Okay, then let's back it up. Start with walking. Have you been walking lately? Are you walking a mile a day? Are you walking a couple of miles a week? If the answer is no, let's take it back again. What can we start with today? So for me, I live in the winter, I live in Idaho, and right now it's winter. I'm not going to go walking outside unless I convince myself to get all dressed up first. So maybe the first step to making it very, very small isn't necessarily even the walking. Maybe my first step for my first training session is to just put on warm clothes. I'm going to get on my sweatshirt. I'm going to get a hat on. I'm going to get some gloves on, and I'm going to get warm so that I can go outside and start walking. That's how you make it small. This is one thing that I actually debate with myself every single morning. When I wake up, the first thing I want to do is exercise. I tell myself the first thing I need to do in the morning is get in a good workout. But probably 50% of the time I wake up and I don't want to do it. So instead of telling myself, all right, I have to wake up right now and go work out, that's a lot. That feels big. That feels heavy. So I don't tell myself that. All I say is sit up. All I have to do right now is sit up. That's the only thing. That's how you make it small. And once I sit up, then all of a sudden I'm like, okay, I'm already up. Now I'm just going to keep going. But you have to start with those little tiny baby steps. This sounds silly. I'm a personal trainer. This is what I do for a living. And I still have this debate with myself daily almost. But as soon as I start small, everything else starts to happen. Let's take a family relationship, for example. You have a child that you are struggling with. You guys fight all the time, or you just don't understand each other, something like that. What is one little tiny small step you can take today? A big thing might be to understand where they're at. That's the goal, is to understand your kid and to come to an understanding where you both see how you can communicate. That feels big. So what is one small thing you can do right now to work toward that? Give your kid a compliment and see how they take it. If they are a verbal person, they will appreciate words of affirmation. If they are not a verbal person, give your kid a hug. Try and see if they're a physical touch person. If they're not a physical touch person, maybe they will reject that hug, and that's okay. You are learning to start small. And as you are doing so, you're able to see how that person responds. That's step number 4. We'll get into the response aspect of this. But right now, just start small. Pick something very, very little that you can try today, that you can do today to make that dream a reality. That's the big thing, is to make it real. If you can see that you're making progress right now, you know you can succeed. All it takes is one tiny little thing that you can do right now to make your dream real. If you just think about it, if you talk about it, if you write it down or put a picture of it on a vision board, it hasn't really become real yet because you haven't done anything to connect with it. However, if you set a goal to pay off your debt, maybe you have a credit card debt of $15,000 and you want to pay that off. You find $10 to spare in your budget this week, $10, and you start with that. And then if you start to save $10 every single day, you will work toward that goal. But start today by starting with that first $10 payment, that first $10 saving, that first $10 piece of the puzzle. You give yourself permission to believe that it's actually going to happen. That first step is what creates all the momentum you need to do anything. But so often we're afraid to take that first step. So make it very, very small. As a personal trainer, a lot of people come to me with a goal of wanting to get healthier. And they come to me with these really intense plans, we'll put them that way. And they are going to go all in on a diet plan, and they're going to get a meal plan, and they're going to have a really specific workout regimen and all of these things all at once. And then I say, okay, what have you been doing before this? And if they've already been doing some of those things, then I'm like, this is great. This is a good start. Let's go for it. But if they're like, I haven't been doing any of this, and if you're going to go all in on all of this crazy, it's going to overwhelm you after just a couple of days. Believe me, I've been there, I've done it, I've tried it. Starting big wears you out with just a few days. That's called burnout and overwhelm, and it doesn't work. We have to start small. And as you start small, you build up that confidence. You build up a little bit of belief in yourself so that you know you can do something bigger. Let's take water, for example. One of the goals that I have for my clients is to drink 100 ounces of water every day. Some people start into this program and they're like, I'm going to go for 100 ounces of water. And on that first day, they only get to 60 ounces and they're so frustrated. So rather than give up, I just tell them, okay, that's fine. You didn't get to 100 today, not a big deal. What about if tomorrow we shoot for 64 ounces instead of 100? Then they get to 64 ounces and they get that metabolic boost, and they get that endorphins and those hormones that get released in your mind when you succeed. And all of a sudden you have that belief in yourself. Okay, I got to 64. Now tomorrow I'm going to get to 70. And then tomorrow they get to 70. And then the next day they set a goal for 75 ounces. Do you see where this kind of motivation comes from? By starting small and working your way up, you motivate yourself with self-belief versus starting big, getting frustrated, and then having to start over again. So instead of going all in on the first day, ask yourself, how can I start small? What can I do that's very small today that I can get a little bit of confidence, get a little bit of connection with this goal and make it into reality? And then I know that I can do it. Start with that. Step number 2 is today. I keep saying start today. Absolutely crucial. If you wait till Monday, you're setting yourself up to fail. If you wait till January 1st to set a New Year's resolution, you're telling yourself that it doesn't matter until then. There's something magical about then that is keeping you back from now. Listen, all we have is right now. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. We don't know if we are even going to be here tomorrow. No one can see the future. So all you can see is right now. What do you have right now? You have today. Tomorrow is anybody's guess, but today is in your control. Right now is in your control. If you want to drink more water, if that's a goal, grab a cup of water right now. Start drinking water during this presentation. If you have a goal to get more exercise, put this thing on your phone and go for a walk around the block while you listen to me. Start today. Don't plan for Monday or whenever the next natural transition time is. Start now. What can I do that's very, very small that I can do today? And just start, just begin. That's what helps you overcome that fear, is experience. Once you've started, then you're like, okay, actually, I can do this. But if you just sit there and you wonder, then by the time you get there, you've built up so much anxiety about it that you question yourself and you built up kind of a reserve of self-doubt. Whereas today, you build up a reserve of confidence. Let's think about that. If you start today, you tell yourself, I got this. You tell yourself, I can do this. So then you start. Day one, you start small and you start today. What do? Some of us are like, I don't even know what that first step might be. Come up with something small and try it. This is the beautiful part of this. So much of us are held back by the fear of not doing it right. Let me just tell you, you don't have to do it right. You can fail. You can fail. You should fail. You will fail. Step number 3 is adapt. I want you to be open to adapting. Adapting means to change to the situation around you, to adjust as you go along. You can't adapt if you never start. That is the key here. You have to start small. You have to start today in order to be able to adapt. You don't know what's going to go wrong. You don't know what's going to go right until you start. So relieve yourself of the pressure of having to be perfect and remove those expectations and just start. I know it sounds easy. I'm making it sound simple and I'm making it sound easy. And I know it is not. That very first step is difficult. But if we make it small and we make it simple and we give ourselves permission to fail, suddenly it's not so heavy. It's not so hard. If we make it a little bit easier on ourselves, then we can start the momentum. We just have to begin. A snowman is built from a little tiny snowball that gets rolled over and over and over again. So start with a little snowball and then watch as that thing starts to grow. So we start today. We pick something. Let's give an example. Let's do a business. You want to start a business and you start today with an idea and you write down all of the different ideas you have and you pick one and you're like, today I'm going to try this idea. And maybe it's an online course. That was one of the first things I did in my business. I started an online course, but I didn't create the course first. I just created the idea of the course. And then I pitched it to my friends and family and asked them to ask their friends if they were interested. So to only my personal contacts, I asked them, is this program something that would solve a problem that you have? Within a couple of days, 15 people signed up for the program. So that was I had no expectation. I didn't create the program yet. That's the beauty of this, is I hadn't created the program because I didn't want to have that expectation. If you go into a business and you already create the program and you already have everything set up and then you go to sell it and it doesn't work, holy moly, that's going to be really, really hard to deal with. But on the other hand, if you do it the other way around, like a Kickstarter method, where you start and you prove the concept first, then you have that little bit, you start small, and then you have a little bit of confidence to grow on top of that. The program that I sold that year was very, very simple, was very small, was very basic. And since then, I've added on huge parts and pieces and made it way, way bigger and way more encompassing so that people are now getting massive results from this program. But it started very, very small. It's absolutely amazing how I was able to start small and start today. And then I used step number 4 to build my business, which was the response. If you listen and you are open to adapting, if you listen to the response, you'll know what adaptations to make. These 2 steps kind of go together. So in my business, for that example, I had those people sign up for the program. I built the program as we went along. It was all live creation as we went along through the 8-week program. At the end of the program and all during the program, I was asking for feedback from these people. I was asking for their responses, honest. I wanted not just good things. I didn't just want a testimonial of saying, hey, this is a great program. I wanted their honest feedback. I wanted their responses of, this is working, this is not working, I love this, I hate this. And I was able to adjust the program, adapt the program based on the needs of my clients. You can do the same thing in any aspect of your life. Take physical health. If you start on a program and you start small and you start with, let's say, your marathon training, you start walking that day. And within a couple of days, you have a knee pain. Rather than push through that knee pain, that's a response from your body. Listen to that response and adjust. If you have a knee pain, it's probably because your walking form is a little bit off. Maybe you've got a foot placement issue, or maybe you've got a balance or core issue. Talk to somebody and get that fixed before we move on. Help yourself to succeed by listening to the response. Another example is mental health. One of the journeys that I went on through postpartum depression was working on my mental health. And one of the things that I did was affirmations. I would sit in front of my mirror in the morning and I would say a couple of sentences to myself. Some of them I knew to be true, and some of them I wanted to remember, or I wanted to be true again. Some of them I felt really disconnected with. And one of those was, I am beautiful. And as I would say that to myself, I would look myself in the eye and I wouldn't believe it. It just breaks my heart to even think about this, but I would look myself in the eye and I would say, I am beautiful. And I would feel totally disconnected. It did not mean anything to me. Rather than bag that one and think, okay, well, I guess that's never going to be true for me, I kept with it. I stuck with it. And I asked myself, why isn't this working? I listened to the response. What was the response to that statement? Was it that I had been told that I wasn't beautiful? No, no one had ever told me that I wasn't beautiful. It was a deep internal thing. So rather than take on all of it at once, I started with one simple step. And I said, what is one thing I know to be beautiful about me? What is one thing I love about the way I look? And I chose my calves. I love my calves. Yes, the muscle on the lower leg of my, or on the lower half of my leg. I love my calves. And so I chose that as my one thing. You know what? I may not be beautiful, but dang, my calves are beautiful. And I started with that. Then the next day I thought of 2 things that I loved about myself. The next day I thought of 3 things I loved about myself. And I would say these to myself in the mirror and look myself in the eye. And after a couple of weeks, I believed it. It absolutely worked. I have no problem with that statement anymore. And I don't care what anyone else thinks. I will never listen to a response outside of myself because I know that the response to that question only comes from me. And that's how I adapt. I didn't adapt because someone else told me, oh, you actually have to do this to be beautiful. You have to have this color of hair, or you have to weigh this amount of weight. No, it had nothing to do with anybody else. It was my internal response, my mental health. And that was the connection that I needed to make with myself. And once I did, it gave me that confidence. It was a small step that I started today, and I learned to adapt to. Instead of looking myself in the eye and repeating the same sentence that hurt my heart, I adapted. I changed it a little bit so that it was something I knew to be true. I have beautiful calves. And then I would work up to, I am beautiful. And after a couple of weeks, I believed it. It was an absolutely transforming experience for my mental health. There were lots of other sentences and lots of other statements that I went through doing the same thing. But listen to the response. Why didn't I connect with that? There were so many things that I was battling with, and I was focusing on the negativity. Once I established that, once I listened to that response and realized I have a really negative connection with my self-image and I need to change that, then I was able to change and look at the positive. Okay, I love this about myself. I love this about myself. And that led to a great love for myself, which everyone should experience. If you struggle with self-image, try this exercise. It's absolutely incredible. I do this with lots of my clients now with different aspects of their life. And just, again, starting smaller. You don't have to love everything about what you're talking about. You don't have to love your entire business, but pick one piece that you know you're dang good at. Focus on that. You don't have to be the perfect parent, but pick one thing that you know you're good at. You know what? I am bad at this part of it, but I don't want to focus on that. What I am good at is this. I'm going to make more time for that piece. Focus on what you can do and adapt to the response you receive. Again, I adapted lots of things in my life, my physical health, my mental health, my business, my family relationships. I've done this before with myself. So this is how that I know that it works. But I've also exercised this with my clients. Be open to adapting. Know that what you expect may not happen and be okay with that. And then listen to the response you get, whether it's from your own body, whether it's from your own mind, whether it's from your clients or your friends or your family. Listen to that response and adapt and use those two together. Those 2 steps go together in a cycle. So start small, start today, start by being okay with adapting, listening to the response, And then step number 5 is to do it together. Oftentimes, what holds us back is being new at something. Of course, anytime you try something new, it's your first time. That's truth. There's no shame in that. There's no disappointment in that. There's no struggle there. That's the truth. If you've never done something this way before, you're new. So rather than give yourself grief about that and think, well, I don't know what I'm doing, don't beat yourself up about that. There is no reason. That's what imposter syndrome is. So many people talk about imposter syndrome. A lot of people talk about it in work, but it can apply to anything. I don't deserve this because who am I? I don't know what I'm doing. Of course you don't know what you're doing, but don't sit in that by yourself. You are not alone in this world. No man is an island. You have billions of other people who have done what you want to do or something similar to it. Maybe you have a friend that has gone through a mental health journey. Tell her, just reach out to her. She doesn't even have to be part of the process, but just reach out to her and say, hey, I'm starting this, and this is what I'm afraid of. Maybe she'll have a little bit of wisdom to help you with. Maybe you are starting a health journey and you get that twinge in your knee on day 1 and you think, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. I can't do it. Get that out of your head and think, okay, who can I reach out to that can help me solve this problem so that I can continue going? Listen to the response, adapt. Maybe that adaptation is bringing someone else in. Start with an accountability partner. Start with someone that you know believes in you. A huge thing that I do when I set a goal is I reach out to either my mom or my sisters or my best friend. And I tell them, hey, I'm working on this thing, or my husband. I do it with my husband all the time. I say, hey, I'm working on this thing, and I just want you to know this is when I'm starting, and I would love your support on this. And oftentimes they'll be like, ooh, I want to do that too. Let's do it together. Or they'll just check in with me every couple of weeks or every couple of days. Hey, how's that going? Or I'll send them a message. Hey, I'm having a bad day. I need a little support. And they'll just give me some, hey, you know what? You can do it. That's what I need. That's what you need. That's what we all need. Stop trying to do things all by yourself. And maybe you don't want to reach out to somebody you know. It's okay. There are millions of books out there to read about whatever it is you're going through. My mental health journey, I didn't want to share it with a coach. I didn't want to share it with, and I couldn't afford a therapist. So I started reading books. And those books gave me a little bit of insight. And I would try something, and if it didn't work for me, I would adapt. I would listen to the response and say, okay, that book wasn't necessarily for me. And I would find things that personally spoke to me. And that is how I was able to succeed. That's how I was able to start, because you don't have to do it alone. So many resources out there. You've got books, you've got podcasts, you've got coaches, you've got speakers, you've got YouTube videos about everything. I mean, there is so much free information out there. You don't have to do it by yourself. You don't have to hire someone either. This absolutely can be a personal journey for you, but don't go at it alone. Go at it with someone who has been there before. Just take a little bit of advice from someone with experience and then personalize it to you. Adapt, listen to the response and adapt, and just keep going. It's absolutely amazing what you can do, but you must start. My very favorite quote is from Zig Ziglar, and he says, you don't have to be great to start, but you must start to be great. That is so incredibly true, and I hope you understand and you believe that quote today. You must start to be great. Overcome your fear, overcome your self-doubt, overcome the overwhelm of it all with something small, starting today, being open to adapting, take down those crazy expectations of perfection, and listen to the response, and then reach out to someone that can help you. That is how you start today. That's how you overcome all the overwhelm and all the things that are holding you back. That feeling of being stuck in whatever it is that you are stuck in, free yourself today and start today. If you're loving the messages that I'm talking about and you want more and you are ready to go, you're like loving this conversation and loving the idea of starting today, but you want that personalized coaching, personalized help, find me on Facebook and reach out to me, or head to my website and sign up for my Healthy and Happy Habits program. We're going to teach you how to transform your health and enjoy the process. You can be healthy and happy at the same time. Head to livelifeconscious.com to sign up for Healthy and Happy, or reach out to me on Facebook or Instagram at Susie B Life or in the Habits and Humor Facebook group. That is where you can contact me and we can talk more about how I can help you start today. For this question and answer session, it's going to be a little bit different today than normal. I'm actually out of town, and so this is pre-recorded. But I am going to go over some questions that I get most often from many, many people. A lot of questions about how to start today, things like that, that lots of people come up with. And I'll go over those answers today. So as if we were in a question and answer session, so that you still get the content from that kind of a conversation, even if we're not live. The question I probably get asked most often is, how do I narrow it down? I always talk about how I want you to focus on one thing at a time. And many, many of you are brilliant people who want amazing, lots and lots of amazing things in your life. So how do you pick just one? I want you to choose the one that speaks the loudest to you. If you were to write down a whole brainstorm session of all the things that you want in your life, what would be a recurring theme on that list? If you were to ask yourself this question, if I were to have more of this thing in my life, it would bring me the most happiness. Or if I were to have less of this thing in my life, it would bring me the most happiness. That is the one I want you to start with. Again, don't make yourself feel the pressure of this choice, because this is just the first one. The process to habit formation is only 60 days. I'm not saying you have to commit your whole this year, 2022, to this one habit or this one pillar. No, just 60 days. That's all I want. 2 months of practicing this thing as your first priority. Those other things that you want and you're doing, you can still do those things. But we're going to focus on one so that we can harness our superpowers, our conscious and subconscious mind, and form those habits. So focus on one. If you are still struggling with this and you're like, the pressure of picking just one is overwhelming to me, I've got you. I have a whole free workshop that walks through this exact process. It's called the 8 P's of Progress. And the first P is ponder, that brainstorm that I just talked about. You're going to write down all your ideas. The second P is prioritize. I'm going to teach you how to choose what matters most in your life. Then the third P is plan, and we go on from there to get you a whole setup system so that you go from not knowing what you want, not knowing how to do it, to doing it, all within an hour. This is going to be next week's presentation. So make sure you're here next week on this show, Habits, Health, and Happiness. And that 8 P's of progress, we're going to walk through that over the hour-long show next week. So make sure you tune in for that so that you get all that good stuff, and it helps you to walk through the prioritizing of what you want, and then walks you through the system on how to set it up so that you can actually make what you want a reality, make it happen. Start today. Again, it's all about taking what you've learned and actually doing it. So much of what we need to do is just acting on the education that we already have. If you just sat through this presentation, this conversation, you know what you need to do to start today. But now you actually have to do it. And if that feels hard, if that feels heavy, it's okay. I've got you. That's what coaches are for. That's what I'm here for. That's what personal trainers are for. And that's what these programs that I'm offering you are for, to help you personalize this and actually make it happen. If this is something that you are looking into, make sure that you tune in next week for the free hour-long workshop. And then if you want more, I'll talk more about at the end of the show, the Healthy and Happy program, or liveconscious.com, all these different ways that you can reach out to me. Here are some other questions that I get asked frequently. Let's go on to the next question. I'm scared. I don't know how to start because I'm too afraid. How do I overcome my fear? Like I said before, admit that you're a beginner. Those 5 steps will help you. But another way that you can start right now, one of the small things that you can do today, is to write down what's called an I'm awesome list, or a past pillars list. In my business, I use pillars to represent the big goals in your life, the big ambitions that you've already built as part of a beautiful structure that you are creating that is your personal monument. So your big pillars are things that you have already done, things that you've already accomplished. Maybe these are big, colossal things like you graduated from high school, or you got married, or you started a family. Or maybe they're little tiny things like you cut your hair, or you ran a 5K, or whatever it is, write down some things that you have already accomplished. And it's especially helpful if you write down things that you've already accomplished that apply to whatever you're wanting to do right now. So let's say that you want to work on your mental health. What are some amazing qualities you have about yourself? What are some amazing personality traits you have that give you some strength, some power? Maybe you're really incredibly resilient. Maybe you're very understanding. Maybe you're very compassionate. Write these things down about yourself. And if you can't come up with a list, call your best friend, call your mom, talk to me for an hour, and I'll help you come up with a list. Find some things that you want to write about yourself that give you some boost, some motivation, some self-esteem, so that you know and you understand, okay, I have done this before. I have experience with this thing. I can do it again. And that gives you the list, a little bit of push that you need to just take that first step. So that's a question I get a lot. How do I overcome my fear? Start with an I'm awesome list and write down all the things that you have already done and that you've already overcome fear to accomplish. Another question is, I don't know what to do. I don't know which way is right for me. Start by removing the right. Stop by removing the perfection. There is no right way. There is no perfect way. There is no must-dos when it comes to personal development, self-help, and progress. All of that is personalized to you. And don't let that frustrate you. Don't let that overwhelm you. Let that empower you. Because now you know whatever you do, you can succeed. Any of those things that you want to do, you can be successful at. All you'll need to listen to is a little bit of response and then adapt it to what applies to you personally. Once you connect that journey to your own personal happiness, you're able to move mountains. It's incredible. So this is also a really, really cool journey to go on. This is a very cool experience to have. This is one of the things I did last year when I started my business, like I was talking about. Instead of coming into it as, I don't know what I'm doing and I don't know where to start, I picked one thing and I tested it out and I tried it. And if it didn't work, I was just going to bag it and go on to the next thing. And that's okay. Be okay with failure. Be open to failure. And maybe things will turn out even better than you expect. Like I said, I didn't expect my course to go well. I didn't expect it to work. I knew the program itself worked because I had already tested that in the research and in the creation of this thing in person, but I'd never tried it online. I'd never tried the online portion of this process. So I had no expectation of what it would be, but the response was phenomenal. It was way better than I ever could have expected. Just absolutely incredible, the effect that it had on these people's lives. It was so powerful. So I encourage you to overcome that thought of, I don't know what's the best way. There is no best way. Just start with a way. Pick a way that sounds good to you and start. And then as you go along, you'll learn how to adapt that, how to listen to the response, how to change it so that it applies specifically to you. I deal with this all the time with diets. People come to me and they say, hey, should I do keto or should I do this or should I do that? And I'm like, which one do you want to do? Which one sounds like it's the best for you? And they're like, okay, it's this one. And I say, why? Why does that one sound the best to you? And they're like, well, it worked for my best friend. Well, she's not you. Why does this diet specifically apply to you? And usually they can't come up with a reason. So then I help them work through a simpler way to diet. Instead of coming up with this complicated program, we come up with something simple that they understand. And once they understand it, they're like, oh, that makes sense. And that's what they start. And that's what they stick with because it applies to them. It's personalized to them. Personalize whatever your progress is to you. Take your gifts and talents and focus on those things. If you know you love to run, have running be part of your exercise. If you know you hate to run, don't have running be part of your exercise. You have all the control in the world here. So many people feel pressure to do something someone else's way. And you can do that, but you won't stick with it. Find a way that speaks to you. And that will remove that pressure of having to be perfect. Like I said, this is a super cool journey because you come to understand yourself on a very deep level that nobody else understands or needs to understand. This is totally for you, whatever it is that you're working on. Your mental health. Maybe looking at yourself in the mirror and saying affirmations is bogus. That's not what you need. But maybe you are just really, really swamped and really busy, and meditation sounds amazing. 5 minutes of sitting with yourself sounds incredible. Start there. I'm not saying you should only do things that are easy for you. I absolutely think you should push yourself, but start with something small, start with something easy, and then work up to those harder things, because you give yourself that confidence from within. I interviewed a girl on the podcast episode a couple of weeks ago, Christy Simmons, and she talked about how when you put yourself out there with something small, you gain some confidence to do something bigger. I love that. She's absolutely right. When you start with something small and something simple, something easy, then you give yourself a little bit of confidence that when you do try those bigger things, that when you do want those greater, more intense, more complicated things, you can do it, because you know that you already have. You know you've succeeded before, so now you know you can succeed in the future. So one of the pieces of advice I would tell you is to overcome your I don't know what's the best way. Do a little bit of research, but don't overwhelm yourself with research. There is what I call consumption mode. Don't get stuck in consumption mode. Keep going. Get beyond consumption mode into actually creating something, actually taking action. Research a couple of different methods and figure out, okay, this one sounds like it makes sense, or this one sounds like it doesn't make sense, and go with that. And then go. Start. That's what we're talking about here, is don't get stuck in consumption mode. I fell into this trap when I was doing my when I was starting my online business. I watched all the webinars and I was reading all the books and doing all the things, but I wasn't actually creating my own business. I wasn't actually interacting with my own clients with my own programming. So I went through this hole for probably 2 months before I finally figured out, okay, this isn't actually doing anything in my business. Same thing with your personal progress. You can read all the books, you can do all the things, you could talk about it all day long, but until you actually start, that's where you'll be able to make that adaptation, make the progress. So give yourself a little bit of time to research a little bit, answer some of those questions. What are some of the possible options? And then pick one and just go. Don't hold yourself back with having to do the right one. Just pick one. You can adapt as you go along. Okay, another question that comes up a lot is, I don't know the specific steps. Like, I don't know how to make it small. I don't know how to start today. What is a simple, tiny step I can take today? I will give you what I call the 3 essentials. I always have my clients that are overwhelmed and feeling like they're swamped. Instead of going all in on a bunch of different stuff, we pick 3. So the 1, 2, 3 system: 1, focus; 2, superpowers, or your conscious and subconscious mind. And my programming in the Healthy and Happy program helps you to master those and harness those 2 powers so that you can not only transform whatever you're working on, but also enjoy the process. And then 3 is pick 3 things that go under that 1 pillar. So let's say your pillar is mental health. Pick 3 things you can do that will help make that a reality. First, affirmations. That's always a good one. Second, personal happiness. Find something you can do every day that speaks to you. For me, that's listening to music. I love music. For my husband, it's podcasts. He loves to listen to podcasts. For my mom, it's riding a bike. She loves to ride her bike, so she rides her bike almost every single day. Find something personal that speaks to your own personal happiness. That takes just a few minutes that you can do every single day. That's an important part of this 3 essentials, is make sure it's a daily habit that you can stick to. Maybe you love to read. Read a book every day for 10 minutes. You don't have to read an entire book, but set down, put it in your schedule. From 7 to 7:10 every morning, I'm going to read. I'm going to connect with me and bring myself a little bit of happiness. And then maybe your third 3 essential. So you got affirmations, you got your personal happiness touch, and then your third one can be self-care. What is something you can do for yourself today that doesn't take a lot of time, that you can consistently do on a habitual basis? What can you do today to take care of yourself? Some of you are moms of little babies. Take a shower. Oh my gosh, that was such a powerful thing when I was a mom of all my young little babies. Even just taking a shower was just like so fulfilling for my soul, that I got to take a moment for myself, because those moments are few and far in between when you have toddlers, let's be honest. Maybe your self-care is meditation. Like I said before, if you are one of those people that's like, go, 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 and you've got a ton going on, Maybe take 5 minutes to meditate every day. But these need to be things that you set up consistently, set up to fit into your life. Again, back to that personalization. If you are not a morning person, don't set your workout time for 6 a.m. I was never a morning person when I had little babies. And so I would work out every day between 9 and 10 a.m. I never worked out in the morning. I hated it. So I didn't do it. It didn't work for me. Now I love it. And it's totally a different thing. And I get up every morning at 6:30 and I work out before my kids wake up because that's what works for me. Find what works for you. Take care of yourself. Do something self-care every single day, even if it just takes a few minutes. Prayer, meditation, take a shower. Any of those tiny little things that can be, those can be 3 important habits for you. So if you are thinking mental health is what I need to work on, affirmations, a personal happiness habit, and self-care. Make those 3 be your 3 habits that you want to start today. Those are 3 small things that you can start right now. If your one pillar, that your goal that you want to work on is your physical health, start with 3 essentials. I think the 3 most important things you can do for your physical health are water, exercise, and sleep. Make them specific. If you just say water, exercise, and sleep, then probably all 3 of those things will happen in some form, but you got to be specific about it. So I want you to do 100 ounces of water, work toward that number. Like I said before, if it doesn't happen on day 1, don't beat yourself up about it. Just work up to it. Start from where you are, work up to 100 ounces a day. Exercise for 30 minutes. Pick 30 minutes and put it on your schedule. Don't just expect this to happen. Don't just expect, oh, if I get 10,000 steps in today, then that'll work. You have to increase your oxygen level. You've got to get your heart pumping and your blood moving through your body. And that only happens through actual intentional exercise. So I want you to schedule 30 minutes a day. That's not a lot. Honestly, I mean, there's 24 hours in a day. We're taking a 30-minute piece of that to increase so much health in your body and your mind. I almost don't exercise for physical health anymore. I almost do it now more for mental health. So there are so many benefits to exercise. Schedule 30 minutes a day. And then the third one is sleep. Schedule your sleep. Somehow as adults, sleep becomes optional. When you're a kid, you have to have that sleep or you literally fall apart. But somewhere along the way, we decide, okay, sleep isn't as important as adults. It still is. You still need sleep just like you did when you were a baby. Your body has to have recovery time. Your brain has to have release and relaxation time. So schedule your sleep in. One of the most beautiful things you can do for yourself is set up a bedtime and a wake up time. Often people don't like that kind of restriction because it feels like you're losing some of your freedom. But what this does is it puts you in what's called a circadian rhythm. And if you wake up within an hour of the same time every day, and you go to sleep within an hour of the same time every day, doesn't have to be the same time, but within an hour, then your body's internal clock naturally will get you there. So naturally, I go to sleep somewhere between 10 and 11 p.m. And naturally, around 9:30, 10 o'clock, my body starts to fall asleep. It starts to expect that now because I've done that for years. And then I wake up somewhere between 6 and 7 a.m. Some days I wake up at 6 and some days I wake up at 7. The days that I went to bed at 11, I sleep until 7. The days that I went to bed at 10, I wake up at 6. So I work these 2 things together, and this puts your body in that incredible rhythm. So you not only are able to succeed, but you're able to help yourself from within. Water, exercise, sleep. Those are 3 start small, start simple things, start today that you can do for physical health. Maybe 3 tasks that you could use for a family relationship, if that spoke to you, would be send a text or call that person today. Send them a message every single day. Just plan on that being a habit. I'm going to send this person a text or a Facebook post or some sort of contact each day. Then I'm going to give them a compliment. Every time I see this person, I'm going to compliment them. Another habit you can make with a relationship is to make fun plans with this person. This seems very silly, but it is so powerful. If you learn to enjoy spending time with this person, your relationship will improve immensely. This doesn't have to be something you do every day, but by planning something fun, you both have something to look forward to. So for my husband and I, when I feel like he and I need to reconnect, I plan a trip. And this gives us joy and happiness for months. Usually I plan it a couple of months out, and just talking about it and planning things and the details of it, this provides he and I a connection and a piece of joy for months before the actual vacation even happens. You can do the same thing with friends. Maybe you have someone that you need to reconnect with, or a sister, or an adult child, someone that you need to reconnect with that you don't see very often. Make plans just to go to lunch. Hey, next month on this day, can you meet me for lunch? Then you have something to look forward to together for weeks at a time. This can be something so simple as lunch, or something so simple as, just little tiny things where you meet up and you have fun together. Often I go golfing with my husband as well, just so that we can make time for each other, enjoying time together. It's absolutely so powerful and so delightful. It's such a happy part of having a relationship. And when you're working on a relationship with someone, this is a very joy inducing habit that you can form. So I encourage you to, with those three habits with a family relationship, is to send a call or a text or a message, to compliment them, and to make fun plans with them. That would be your three essentials for a family relationship. If your one pillar is your business, and that is one thing that you want to improve, here are my three habits that I use in my business. I use something called time blocking because I don't want my business to overrun my life. And so I schedule a minimum and a maximum for each of these tasks so that they don't just fill up all of my time, because they will. If you're an entrepreneur, you understand that. And so my three tasks that I do every day are 30 minutes of targeted daily engagement. This is a concept that I got from Grow the Show from Kevin Schmidlin. And this is where you form conversations. You start conversations with your ideal clients and just see if they actually have a need that you can fill. And then you both win. They get something from you, you get something from them, and you both come out better for this conversation. So that is what targeted daily engagement is. You're commenting on their stuff. If there's other people that are teaching similar concepts to what you teach, it's good to support them. You want your message out there, whether it's coming from your mouth or from others. If it's aligned with what you are speaking about, engage with those as well. Get those people to get their message out. Speak with your ideal clients and just spread the word. Use some form of engagement, whether that be speaking in person, or maybe that is social media or emails or things like that, that you can just reach out to people and have these conversations. So I have a minimum and a maximum amount of time for that each day, 15 to 45 minutes, depending on the day. The other habit that I have is to create or share. Maybe you have something in your course that you need to create. Maybe you've got some tasks that you need to get done, things like that. Something about what you teach. Create something. Creation is such a powerful thing for your left and right sides of your brain. And by actually turning an idea into reality, you are inducing so much progress in your mind and creating these new pathways, not only for yourself, but you're also getting your message out to other people where they can find it. Social media is a great way to promote your message, not necessarily your services or your products, but the message behind it. So even just simple things, going live and saying, hey, I went for a walk today and it was beautiful outside. I hope you're out enjoying the sunshine. How simple is that? But maybe somebody needed to hear that day. So that can be a beautiful business habit that you can do, one of your three essential habits for business. And then the third one is what I call a business job or a business knickknack. Something that you have to work on your business, not necessarily in your business, but it needs to get done. Often these are not fun tasks, and these are the things I don't want to do. So I set a minimum and a maximum. I have to work on it for this amount of time, but once I get to this amount of time, I'm done. I'm out of time. So that helps me to stick with it and to be efficient. This you could apply to any area of your life, but I do this in my business. Some of those things when you're getting started, registering with the state that you're in as an LLC or as a corporation or whatever you are, paying your bills, running your books, managing your bank accounts, creating an email sequence that you need as part of a program you're developing, creating emails as part of promotion, pre-selling your course. Maybe you need to just reach out and target and see, is this actually something that I need to produce, or is this maybe not a need right now? There are all these sorts of tasks that need to get done, this kind of market research, things like that. So I don't allow this to overrun my life because there are so many of these kinds of tasks, but I allow myself to do 30 to 45 minutes a day of these things. And I highly recommend time blocking in your business. These 3 time blocks for me have been incredibly powerful. They add up to about an hour and a half total, maybe 2 hours if I go to the maximum time. So I can get them done in 2 hours a day. That is quick and efficient, but it also makes sure that I am making necessary progress. And I'm able to continue to succeed. The part of my business that I love, I can spend the rest of my time that I have allotted for work that day doing what I love, and not what I have to do, but what I want to do. And as these things become habit, they become things that you look forward to. I love targeted daily engagement now. When I first started, it was scary and it was hard and it felt weird, but now it's really natural and I love it. It's super fun. Creation and sharing and posting, all of that, it's all fun now. So again, like I said, some of this stuff it's hard at first. This applies to anything that you're starting, whether you're starting a business or you're starting a running workout or you're starting just to drink more water. It's hard at first. Ooh, excuse me. It's hard at first, but it gets easier as you go. That's the power of starting small. If you start too big and you start too much at once, usually it gets harder as you go. But with habits and with simple daily progress, it starts small and it gets easier as you go. So I encourage you to overcome all the things that are holding you back. Start today. Overcome your fear, overcome your doubt, overcome the confusion and wondering and all the details and the specifics, and just start. You'll see the progress start to roll up just like that snowball turning into a snowman. It just starts to happen, but it only happens if you begin. Begin today. I just did a podcast episode on this as well. If you check out the Habits and Humor podcast, you can hear more details about stuff like this. There's also a Habits and Humor Facebook group. This is a free community where we share tons of life hacks, habits, happiness, and health tips, all this kind of stuff in there. So if you would like to continue this conversation, get in this group and let's go. Next week on this show, if this was a lot for you and you're like, I feel like I want to do this, but I'm not sure where to start. Next week on this show, we are going to do what's called the 8 P's of progress. And this is a workshop to take you from not knowing what you want to starting today, having all of those thoughts in your head sifted through and actually make them reality, make them happen. So tune in next week, make sure that you go through the 8 P's of progress so that you can start today. You can continue into the future and you can create a life that you absolutely love. Again, I'm Susie B. If you want to learn more about stuff like about these concepts, go to livelifeconscious.com. And I've got the 60-day program. If health is the one thing that is speaking loudest to you during these conversations, if you're like, yes, this is the one that I need, I've got a Healthy and Happy program, which is my online 60-day health habit mastery course. You're going to transform your health in a way that you enjoy. I'm going to help you actually look forward to getting healthy instead of having it be something that you dread. So if those are programs that you would like to get involved in or resources you would like to take advantage of, please find me on social media, the Habits and Humor podcast, in the Facebook group, or check out livelifeconscious.com to see all of my work and everything that I do. Thanks for tuning in today for Habits, Health, and Happiness, and we'll catch you next week.